The reason that we're gathered today in the courthouse to rally against a case that is to go in front of the Supreme Court called the Janus versus ASME. Janus seeks to outlaw fair share fees by eliminating fair share. Janus would essentially make all public employees right to work. Like so-called right-to-work laws, this case is designed to silence workers' voices by making it harder to organize, build solidarity, and assert our rights. The Supreme Court is expected to decide Janus this year sometime. Janus will affect every union member, not only in the public sector, but it will affect public or private. We must stand together even though every aspect of this potential ruling and stay firmly against it. We're going to have some speakers today, and I'll introduce them going forward. I want to introduce Willie Alice, the president of the Beaver County NAACP. Willie, do you want to come up and say a few words?
He said Alice, but it's Willie Salas, okay? I was trying to get out of not speaking this morning, but when I received this sign here, it says, America needs union, and I can speak for the NAACP. The union have always supported the NAACP. Anytime we need help with anything, the union was there to support us. The NAACP and the union, really, when you look at what we're trying to accomplish, 99% of the things that the NAACP is trying to accomplish, the unions are doing the same thing. And just to show you how important we need the union, I'm going to give you one example. You know, by me being here for a long time as the president, and with all this gray hair, you know I got some war stories, okay? And this must have happened probably about 15 years ago. I received a phone call from a lady, and she said she was terminated. And I said, for what reason? She said, no reason at all. And just to give you an example, with the NAACP, when there's a union at that local plant, we have very little issues. The only time we have issues is when there is not a union. So that's why it's so important to make my job a lot easier when we do have a union. So anyway, real quickly, she called and she said she was terminated. And I said, for what reason? She said, no reason at all. For me, it's hard to believe that you could get terminated without any just cause. So I said, well, let me go up and check this out and see what it's all about. All in my mind, I'm thinking, you was fired for some reason. So she was from Malaquippa, but she worked in a little small plant up in Pittsburgh. And what they do at that plant is anytime airplanes come in, they have to take the windows out and refab them all over again. They only allowed a certain amount of hours to run a plane, to fly a plane without taking the windows out. So this one company must have had about probably 45 or 50 members, and he ran the whole show. He owned the place, he ran it, he hired, he fired. So when I got there, of course, there was not a union there. And when I got there, we sat down and I talked to the president for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we got down to the point, and I said, well, was there some issues with this individual? And I said, well, how was her production? He said her production was excellent. I said, how was her work record? Excellent. I said, how was her quality? Excellent. So I'm saying, how in the world can you fire a person if she have all those good qualities about her? And I said, why was she terminated? Believe this or not, because of her attitude. She was fired because he did not like her, not because of production quality or how long she'd been working there, but only because she'd been here about a year, only because of her attitude. No union, no nothing. So he terminated her. Needless to say, after about 15 minutes of talking to that individual, he called her back to work the next day. But what I'm saying is, without a union, it's tough. It makes our job harder, but with the union there, we have very little issues. So the NAACP is proud any way we can support the union. We love the union, especially the local unions. We love the local unions. And anytime that we need it, you guys need our help, we're there, because anytime we need your help, you're with us. So we love the union, we support the union. So union, thank you, we need you.
Okay, next I'd like to introduce Denise Cox. She's an organizer at SEIU, Democratic State Committee person who has worked with the public sector for 26 years. Denise?
Hello everyone, thanks for coming out on this beautiful day and no rain. We're happy, right? So we're going to talk about big corporations, anti-worker politicians who are spending millions of dollars to attack union workers. The Janus case versus AFSCME is this latest Supreme Court case that big corporations and billionaires are using to attack workers. So the rich are spending up to $80 million on a campaign to defund and defang unions. So I was a healthcare worker for 26 years. I worked up the hill at the used to be the geriatric center, Friendship Ridge. So I was a county worker for 26 years. And we not only used our voices for our workers, we used them for our residents and our patients. So Healthcare PA is the union that I represent workers for. We represent unions, nurses in hospitals, the state hospitals, in jails. So it's those folks who they're taking a voice away from, them and their working conditions, plus the patients and residents they take care of. So I have some general facts. In Wisconsin, regulations have already went through similar to anti-worker legislation, and they're quite startling. So average wages dropped $3.27 an hour. Poverty increases by 12%. Healthcare benefits decreased by 21%. And we all know we all fight for better healthcare, now. So imagine what happens when this legislation goes through. Workplace fatalities. This is a little startling also. 51%, they raise by. So, the importance of the union, of having the voice, is under attack, and it's now more than ever. We really need to stand up and be united. So nurses in our communities work in public health centers, mental health facilities, prisons, and veterans' homes. So it's imperative that we keep their voices strong for the patients they take care of. So home care workers, we're the best advocates for our patients. So it's not about the company getting more money and becoming more corporate. So the voice of the union are the folks who help to neutralize that. So today we're standing strong. If we stick together, no court case is going to take away our power to stand together as a union, protect healthcare workers, and folks that we care about. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Frank Snyder with the AFL Secretary-Treasurer. Frank, you want to come up and say a few words?
I asked my friend Joe Spanik was holding signs up over there, and I thought, does that say 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute? And he told me I could talk as long as I want today. So, on behalf of President Rick Bloomingdale, myself, and over 700,000 hard-working women and men who make up the Pennsylvania AFL-CIO, I bring you greetings and appreciation for all that you do. Coming out here today at noon, joining folks that all weekend long, all across Pennsylvania, you know what, actually it's been all across America, folks have been coming together on this very, very special issue. I'm on my way to Greensburg, where in Pennsylvania, we've had no less than a dozen of these events all over from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia and every small community in between. I'm going to finish it up in Greensburg today, but our work isn't done whenever we finish up. They've taken this fight to the Supreme Court. Thinking about what my good friend Willie said. Listen, when you talk about Pennsylvania, you have to think about at-will employment. That's what this comes down to. When Brother Salas is talking about the situation and the reason that was given for the person that was discharged, when you're in Pennsylvania, know this, that for any reason or for no reason whatsoever, you could be fired. Any reason or no reason. That's what's at-will employment. Now, here we are, an issue that's been going on for 40 years. Since 1977, they simply don't get it. This fight has been won by you. And okay, get that. Who is that? I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. This fight, maybe that's the Supreme Court. And hopefully the Supreme Court is ruling it on our side. Nevertheless, here's what's important as I look at my friends from Beaver County, actually from the neighboring counties as well. We have building trades professionals, we have public sector workers, and we have private sector workers and unions sticking together. This fight is not just about the public sector. All you have to do is take a look at what happened in Wisconsin. And when you look at Scott Walker, and you compare Scott Walker to Scott Wagner, it really makes up that movie Dumb and Dumber. And I'm going to just go out there and I'm going to say it again. You don't want people like this in government. This is an issue, by the way, that's not about Democrats and Republicans. It's really about fairness. And when you come to Beaver County, you got to believe you know you're in union country. And that's really where we are. We're not going to take this sitting down, sisters and brothers. The Central Labor Council, thank you so much for all that you do in every fight that you do, Rick, and all of your officers who are here. We can't just sit back and let this happen to us. No other place in society would this happen. No other place in society would you allow freeloaders, because this is what this comes down to, people that get a service that do not have to pay for that service. How's that fair to anybody? Here we are in government, standing on the steps of this beautiful courthouse. What if I didn't support you for election, for example? Am I allowed to simply not pay the taxes that keep this Beaver County moving and going and Pennsylvania thriving? You know what they would do to you. Where else in business, for the folks that have businesses, would you provide a service and say, you know what, it's okay, Steve. You don't have to pay. I'm going to give you a service. It's called collective bargaining. It's going to do everything that Denise just said. And it's going to also, something else, it's going to raise your wages. Because on average, the average union member receives $212 a week more than the average non-union member. Now it's my turn, right? Here, take that. That is the Supreme Court. So that, I want you to go back to those numbers. $848 a month difference. That's a union difference. You know what I call that? I call that non-union dues. It costs non-union workers $848 a month more not to belong to a union, in addition to what Denise just shared with you. Now, I wish that we would have more of our public officials joining us today out here, not just at the county level, but at the local level and the state and the federal level. Because they have to understand that this impacts everybody. You know what? Not everybody wants to pay taxes, right? But then how are you going to pay to keep the street lights on at night? How are you going to fix the potholes? How are you going to have police and fire service and teachers and public schools? It doesn't happen by magic, sisters and brothers. Taxes are what we pay to have a civilized society. Dues are what we pay to have a civilized workplace. Look, I appreciate all that you do, not just on issue, but on issue after issue in Beaver and Lawrence counties. You know, on behalf of President Rick Bloomingdale and myself, know this, that regardless if you're with the building trades or the private sector or the public sector, your fight is our fight. Hang in there, sisters and brothers. God bless you all. Thank you for everything that you do.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody for coming. I wanted to recognize a couple people here. Tracy Antoline, Beaver County Register of Wills. Thank you for coming out. Carrie Thurl, Beaver County Democratic State Committee person. Thank you very much, and for all your help to organize this. Appreciate it. And I wanted to thank everybody for coming out. We just have to understand that this means a lot for not only public sector, like Frank said, but for the private sector, because it's going to come down to this for right to work. The brief is supposed to be written either today or the next week, so we need to make calls and make sure that it goes our way toward this. So I want to thank everybody for coming and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.